She had exactly 47 minutes to find a man willing to pretend he loved her, and she'd just asked the most dangerous one in the realm. Elara didn't know that yet. Couldn't have known. Standing in that crowded tavern with ale soaking through her worn dress and desperation clawing at her throat. The stranger at the corner table looked like nothing more than a traveler. Dark hood pulled low, broad shoulders hunched over a cup of wine he hadn't touched. Just another man passing through the border village of Thornwood on his way to somewhere that actually mattered. But the way his eyes lifted when she approached, silver gray, sharp as winter moonlight, should have warned her that some wolves didn't need to bare their teeth to be deadly. "I need a favor." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "A big one, and I can pay." The stranger's mouth curved, not quite a smile, something more dangerous. "I'm listening. My former betrothed arrives tonight, with his new wife." Elara's hands curled into fists at her sides. "He's coming to collect the dowry my father still owes his family. 300 gold pieces we don't have. Unless I'm already claimed. Bonded. Then the contract is void and his family has no hold over us." She lifted her chin, refusing to let him see how much this cost her. "I need a fake boyfriend, a mate. Just for one night. Just long enough to convince him I've moved on." The stranger leaned back in his chair, and something shifted in the shadows beneath his hood. A glint of amusement, interest. "You're asking me to lie to a nobleman about a sacred bond. I'm asking you to stand beside me for a few hours and look like you mean it." Elara reached into her pocket and pulled out the small leather pouch. Everything she'd saved for 3 years working in the healer's hall. 50 silver pieces. It's all I have. He didn't look at the money. His eyes never left her face, tracing over her features with an intensity that made heat prickle along her skin. "What makes you think I'd be convincing? You're tall. You're clearly not from here. Exotic. Mysterious. And you look like the kind of man who doesn't take orders from anyone." She swallowed hard. Sebastian always hated feeling inferior. You'd drive him mad just by existing. That almost smile widened. "Sebastian, your former betrothed has a name. He has a lot of things. A title, a fortune, a new wife he paraded through my village market last month just to make sure I saw." Elara's jaw tightened. "What he doesn't have anymore is me, and I need him to see that I'm not some pathetic girl still waiting for him to change his mind." The stranger was quiet for a long moment. The tavern noise seemed to fade around them, the clinking glasses, the rough laughter, the crackling fire, until there was nothing but his steady gaze and the wild hammer of her pulse. Then he stood, and Elara's breath caught. He was tall, taller than she'd realized, unfolding from that chair like a shadow taking form. The hood fell back slightly, revealing sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could have been carved from stone, dark hair that curled slightly at his temples. But it was his presence that stole the air from her lungs, a weight, a power, something that made every instinct she possessed scream that this man was not prey. He was the predator, and she'd just invited him to hunt at her side. "Keep your silver." His voice was low, rough like velvet dragged over gravel. "I'll do it." Elara blinked. "What?" "Your fake boyfriend arrangement." He stepped closer and she caught his scent, pine and wood smoke and something darker, wilder. "I'll play the part. No payment necessary." "Why?" The word slipped out before she could stop it. His head tilted, silver eyes gleaming. "Maybe I'm bored. Maybe I enjoy making noblemen squirm. Or maybe..." He reached out, and his fingers brushed her chin, tilting her face up toward his. The touch was feather-light, barely there, but electricity crackled through her nerve endings like lightning seeking ground. "Maybe you interest me, little healer." She should have pulled away, should have questioned how he knew she worked in the healing halls when she hadn't mentioned it, should have listened to the warning bells clanging through her skull. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "I don't even know your name." Kael. Just the one word, offered like a gift. Or a trap. Elara. I know. His thumb traced her jawline, and something deep in her chest tightened, a sensation like a thread being pulled taut. The whole village knows the healer's daughter who was thrown over for a richer bride. They just don't know how brightly she burns when she's angry. Elara's cheeks flushed. I'm not. You are. Kael released her chin but didn't step back. It's magnificent. Now, shall we discuss the terms of our arrangement? Before we continue, please take 2 seconds to like this video. Why are you really doing this? Elara asked as they stood in the moonlight outside the tavern, the weight of what she'd just agreed to settling over her like a second skin. Kael tilted his head, studying her with those unnerving silver eyes. Does my motivation matter if the outcome serves you? It matters to me. She crossed her arms over her chest, suddenly aware of how exposed she felt. Strangers don't just agree to deceive noblemen for free. What's your angle? Something shifted in his expression, a flicker of surprise, maybe respect. You're suspicious. Good. You should be. He stepped closer, and her traitorous heart kicked against her ribs. But sometimes, little healer, the universe puts us exactly where we need to be. Maybe I walked into that tavern tonight because I was meant to find you. That's not an answer. No, he agreed softly. It's not. They stood there in the silver-washed darkness, caught in something that felt bigger than either of them understood. The noise of the tavern bled through the walls. Laughter, clinking glasses, the ordinary sounds of ordinary lives continuing while Elara's tilted on its axis. I don't believe in fate, she finally said. Neither did I. His voice was barely above a whisper. Until about 20 minutes ago. She should have asked what he meant, should have demanded clarity, insisted on understanding the strange current running beneath his words. But time was slipping away, and some questions were too dangerous to answer in the dark. They had 30 minutes before Sebastian's carriage would roll into the village square. 30 minutes for Elara to transform a stranger into a convincing mate and pray that her former betrothed was too arrogant to look closely. She led Kael through the back streets to her family's cottage, hyper-aware of his presence behind her, the near-silent footsteps, the way he seemed to absorb the shadows rather than walk through them. The moon hung heavy and full above them, casting silver light across the cobblestones. The story, Elara said, pushing open the cottage door. We need a story. How we met, how long we've been together, why no one in the village has seen you before. Kael ducked through the low doorway, and suddenly her small home felt even smaller. He filled the space without trying, examining the dried herbs hanging from the rafters, the worn quilt on the narrow bed, the shelf of healing texts she'd collected since childhood. Keep it simple, he said. Lies collapse under complexity. We met when you treated me for an injury 2 months ago. I've been traveling, but I return whenever I can. Tonight, I arrived early to surprise you. That's actually good. You sound shocked. I didn't expect a random tavern stranger to be skilled at deception. Something flickered across his features, there and gone. Everyone has secrets, Elara. The question is whether they're worth keeping. She should have asked what he meant, should have pressed for more information about this man who'd agreed to lie for her without payment, who looked at her like he was memorizing every detail of her face, who moved through the world like he owned it. But time was running out, and Sebastian's cruelty waited for no one. We need to look like we belong together. Elara moved to her small mirror, tucking stray strands of hair behind her ears. Her reflection showed a woman with tired eyes and a dress that had seen better days. Not a queen's face, not even a lady's face. Just a healer's daughter who'd once been foolish enough to believe a nobleman's pretty lies. He'll be watching for any sign that this is fake, any hesitation, any distance. Then we don't give him any. Kael appeared behind her in the mirror, and Elara's heart stuttered. His hands settled on her shoulders, warm through the thin fabric of her dress, and he lowered his head until his lips nearly brushed her ear. Relax. The word ghosted across her skin. You're trembling. I'm nervous. You're terrified. His grip gentled, thumbs tracing small circles against her shoulder blades. What did he do to you? The question was soft, dangerous in a different way. Not threatening, but seeking, like he actually wanted to know. Like her answer mattered to him personally, not just for the performance they were about to give. He made me believe I was enough. Elara's voice cracked despite herself. For 2 years, he made me think he loved me. We would walk through the orchards outside his estate, and he'd pick wildflowers for my hair and tell me I was more beautiful than any lady at court. She watched Kael's reflection, the way his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He said his father would come around, that love conquered all, that we'd have a cottage by the river and children with my eyes and his stubborn chin. And then his father found a match with a banking family, a girl with a fortune instead of a face. Elara's hands pressed against the cool surface of the mirror, grounding herself in the reality of her small, safe cottage. He didn't even tell me himself. I found out when the engagement announcement was read in the town square. I was standing right there, Kael, right there in the crowd, and he looked at me and then he just looked away, like I was a stranger, like those 2 years meant nothing. The silence that followed was heavy, charged with something she couldn't name. Then Kael's hands slid from her shoulders to her waist, turning her gently until she faced him. Look at me. She did, and the fury in those silver eyes nearly undid her. He was a fool. Each word landed with quiet intensity. A blind, arrogant fool who couldn't recognize what stood before him, and tonight, we're going to make him regret it. You don't even know me. I know enough. His palm pressed against her lower back, drawing her closer. I know you work 12-hour days healing others and never charge those who can't afford it. I know you gave up your apprenticeship in the capital to care for your sick mother. I know you've had every reason to become bitter and hard, but instead, you marched up to a stranger in a tavern and demanded help with fire in your eyes. His voice dropped lower. I know you deserve better than a coward who threw you away, and I know exactly how to make him see what he lost. Elara's breath came shallow, quick. How do you know all that? Small village. People talk. But something in his expression suggested there was more, something he wasn't saying. Now, we should practice. Practice? Touching, standing close, looking at each other like the rest of the world doesn't exist. His hand rose to cup her cheek, and that strange tightness in her chest intensified, a humming sensation, like a plucked string vibrating in tune with his pulse. If you flinch when I reach for you, he'll know something's wrong. It made sense. It was logical, practical, necessary for the deception to work. That's what Elara told herself as she leaned into his touch, as her own hands rose to rest against his chest, as she let herself breathe in that scent of pine and wildness. She told herself a lot of things in those 30 minutes. None of them explained why touching this stranger felt like coming home. The carriage arrived at precisely 8 bells, lacquered black wood gleaming in the torchlight of the village square. Half the town had turned out to watch, not because they cared about Sebastian's arrival, but because word had spread like wildfire that Elara the healer had found herself a new man, and everyone wanted to see the drama unfold. Kael's arm wrapped around her waist as they waited near the fountain. Solid, possessive, real in a way that nothing about this night should have been. Breathe, he murmured against her temple. I've got you. The carriage door opened and Sebastian stepped out. He hadn't changed much, still handsome in that polished, practiced way, with golden hair swept back from a face too symmetrical to be truly memorable. His wife followed, a delicate thing in silk and pearls who looked at the village around her like she'd stepped in something unpleasant. But it was Sebastian's expression when his gaze found Elara, when it traveled from her face to Kael's arm around her to the way she leaned into the stranger's embrace, that made every second of this insane plan worth it. Shock. Confusion. And beneath it all, a flash of something that looked almost like jealousy. Good. Let him choke on it. Elara. Sebastian recovered quickly, smoothing his features into practiced pleasantry as he approached. I'd heard you'd moved on. I didn't believe it. Why wouldn't you? Elara's voice came out steadier than she'd expected. The warmth of Kael's arm around her waist anchored her, reminded her that she wasn't facing this alone. You certainly did. His wife stiffened, fingers tightening on Sebastian's arm. She was pretty in a fragile sort of way, pale skin, light eyes, the kind of delicate features that suggested she'd never worked a day in her life. Elara felt a flicker of pity for her. She probably had no idea what kind of man she'd married, but Sebastian's attention wasn't on his wife. It was fixed on Kael with the wariness of a man who just realized he might not be the largest predator in the room. And you are? Kael. No title, no elaboration, just the name, delivered with the confidence of someone who didn't need credentials to command respect. Elara's mate. The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Mate. Not betrothed, not lover. Mate. The term used for bonds that couldn't be broken by contracts or gold. The kind of claim that made Sebastian's marriage contract look like a child's scribbled promise. Sebastian's eye twitched. I wasn't aware healers' daughters attracted such interesting company. Then you weren't paying attention. Kael's hand spread wider on Elara's hip, thumb tracing lazy circles through her dress. Each touch sent sparks cascading down her spine. Easy mistake. You seem like a man who misses the obvious. A muscle jumped in Sebastian's jaw. Behind him, a small crowd had gathered. Villagers who'd come to witness the confrontation, who'd spent months whispering about poor Elara and her public humiliation. Now they watched with hungry eyes, eager to see the tables turn. I don't know who you are, Sebastian said, his pleasant mask slipping. But this is a private matter between our families. I'd advise you to stay out of it. Kael's smile didn't waver, but something in his eyes turned cold. Lethal. I'd advise you to watch your tone when speaking about my mate's family. You might find the consequences uncomfortable. The insult was wrapped in silk, delivered with a smile that didn't reach those silver eyes. Sebastian's face reddened, but before he could respond, Kael continued. I understand you're here about a dowry matter, something about broken contracts. His head tilted, and torchlight caught his features in a way that seemed almost intentional, shadows carving his cheekbones sharper, making his eyes gleam like molten metal. Surely you're not expecting payment for something that no longer applies. The contract was signed. The contract specified payment upon completion of the marriage bond. Elara found her voice, found the courage she'd been missing for months. A bond you severed when you chose another bride. Whatever my father once owed your family died with your betrayal. Sebastian's perfect composure cracked. You can't just... I can. I did. She stepped forward, out of Kael's embrace but still close enough to feel his warmth at her back. Go home, Sebastian. Take your wife and your carriage and your wounded pride and leave my village. There's nothing for you here anymore. For one terrible moment, she thought he would push back, thought he would cause a scene, demand the gold, make this night so much worse than it needed to be. Then Kael moved. He didn't speak, didn't threaten, just shifted his weight, rolling his shoulders back in a way that somehow made him seem larger, more dangerous, like a wolf settling into a stance before it lunged. His eyes never left Sebastian's face, and Sebastian, for all his bluster, recognized a predator when he saw one. This isn't over, he hissed, but he was already retreating, already guiding his confused wife back toward the carriage. "You'll regret this." "No." Kael's voice carried across the square, quiet but piercing. "She won't." The carriage wheels churned in the mud as it departed, and Elara sagged with relief, until she realized half the village was still watching, and Kael's arm had found her waist again. "They're expecting a celebration," he murmured, lips close to her ear. "A public claiming. Are you prepared for that?" "What does that mean?" His answer was to turn her in his arms, to cup her face in both hands, to look at her with an intensity that made her forget they had an audience. "It means I'm going to kiss you now," he said softly. "And I need you to understand. I'm not doing this for them. I'm not doing this for the deception." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Then why?" "Because I've wanted to since the moment you walked up to my table with fire in your eyes and demanded I be yours." The kiss was inevitable. She realized that later, in the quiet hours of the night when she replayed every second. From the moment their eyes met in that tavern, from the first brush of his fingers against her chin, they had been careening toward this collision. His lips met hers, and the world dissolved. He kissed like a man who'd been starving, thorough, consuming, demanding everything she had to give, and offering something equally devastating in return. His hands tangled in her hair, tilting her head back to deepen the angle, and that humming sensation in her chest exploded into something brighter. A thread between them, golden and singing, snapping into place like a lock finally finding its key. When they broke apart, Elara was trembling for entirely different reasons than before. "What was that?" she whispered. "That feeling." Kael's forehead pressed against hers, his breath ragged. "That's what I need to tell you. What I should have told you before any of this started." "Tell me what?" He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes, and in the torchlight, she saw something she'd missed before. Something that should have been obvious from the moment he stood in that tavern. The way people instinctively moved out of his path. The deference in the innkeeper's bow. The quality of his clothes beneath that common cloak. Fabric too fine for any traveler. The way he carried himself, like a man born to command. And those eyes. Those silver, wolf-bright eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. "My name is Kael Thornwood." His voice was steady, but his hands on her waist trembled slightly. "And I am the Alpha King of the Northern Realm." The world tilted beneath her feet. Alpha King. The ruler of the wolf-blooded, the most powerful shifter in all the known territories. A man who commanded armies, who brokered treaties between nations, who had been rumored to be traveling incognito through the border villages to assess the state of his realm. She'd heard stories about him since childhood, whispered tales around the fire about the young prince who'd challenged his corrupt father for the throne and won. The warrior who'd united the warring wolf packs through a combination of diplomacy and sheer, terrifying power. The king who'd defeated the shadow beasts that once terrorized the northern borders, who'd personally led the charge that saved thousands of lives. The king who'd never taken a queen, despite a decade of proposals from noble families across the continent. Because, the stories said, he was waiting for his true mate. And she had asked him to be her fake boyfriend, for 50 silver pieces. "No." Elara stepped back, horror flooding through her veins like ice water. "No, that's not... You can't be... I am." Kael let her go, but didn't look away. His expression was open, vulnerable in a way that seemed wrong on a king's face. On anyone's face, really. Like he was offering her something precious and bracing for her to shatter it. "And that feeling when we kissed, the thread between us, that's the mate bond, the true bond, the one that can't be faked or forced or broken." "You knew." The realization hit her like a physical blow, stealing her breath. "You knew this whole time. You sat in that tavern and let me beg you to pretend, when you already knew." "I suspected." He moved toward her slowly, carefully, like she was a wild creature that might bolt at any sudden movement. The moment you walked through the door, I felt it, a pull in my chest, like a hook behind my ribs. A voice in the back of my mind saying mine. But I've heard that voice before and been wrong. I needed to be certain, needed to know the woman behind the bond before I told you what this meant. What it meant was making a fool of me. Elara's voice broke on the words. Around them, the villagers who hadn't dispersed were watching with wide, wondering eyes, piecing together what they were hearing. By tomorrow, this story would spread through the realm like wildfire. The healer's daughter who accidentally propositioned the Alpha King. I'm a healer's daughter, Kael, a nobody from a border village with nothing to my name but a tattered dress and a sick mother. You're the Alpha King. This doesn't happen to people like me. We can. He caught her hands before she could retreat further, and that golden thread between them pulsed with warmth. The mate bond doesn't care about titles or bloodlines. It sees souls, Elara, and yours called to mine from the moment you demanded I be yours. Tears burned in her eyes. This is insane. Yes. A soft, wondering smile crossed his features. It absolutely is. And I don't care. His thumbs traced her knuckles, gentle despite the strength in his grip. You asked me why I agreed to help you tonight without payment. The truth? I would have agreed to anything. I would have walked through fire. I would have moved the mountains themselves. Because finding you was the only thing that mattered. You don't know me. I know you're brave enough to face your worst fear with nothing but a stranger at your side. I know you're kind enough to protect your family at any cost. I know you burn so bright that I felt your presence before I ever saw your face. His voice dropped, raw with emotion, and I know that everything in me is screaming that you're mine, that I'm yours, that this is what I've been searching for through every lonely year of my reign. Elara wanted to argue, wanted to list every logical reason this couldn't work, every barrier between a healer's daughter and a king, every way this fairy tale would shatter against the rocks of reality. But that golden thread hummed in her chest, warm and certain. And when Kael pulled her close again, when his forehead pressed against hers and his breath mingled with hers, she couldn't remember any of them. What happens now? She whispered. Now you choose. His hands framed her face, tender despite their size. I will never force this bond on you. If you want to walk away, I'll let you go. It will destroy me, but I'll let you go. And if I stay? His smile was like sunrise, slow, bright, transforming. If you stay, I will spend every day of my life proving that you made the right choice. I will give you a home in my castle and a voice in my councils. I will challenge anyone who dares suggest you're not worthy of standing at my side. And I will love you, Elara, fiercely, completely, for as long as we both draw breath. It was madness. It was impossible. It was the kind of thing that only happened in stories, not to real women with calloused hands and mended dresses and nothing to their name but 50 silver pieces and a spine full of fire. But when she looked into those silver eyes, when she felt the bond singing between them, when she remembered the way he'd stood at her side without hesitation and faced down her demons like they were nothing. Maybe impossible things happen sometimes. Maybe the universe had a sense of poetry after all. One condition, she heard herself say. Kael's breath caught. Anything. When we tell people how we met, we leave out the part where I paid you to be my fake boyfriend. His laugh was like thunder, deep, rolling, genuinely joyful. Then he was kissing her again, lifting her off her feet, spinning her in the moonlit square while the last of the village onlookers cheered. And somewhere in the distance, a carriage carried Sebastian and his wife back to their empty contractual marriage, never knowing what true love looked like. 3 months later, The Northern Realm celebrated a royal wedding unlike any in living memory. The great hall of Thornwood Castle blazed with 1,000 candles, their light reflected in the silver and blue decorations that draped every pillar and balcony. Nobles from every corner of the realm had gathered, their finest silks and jewels on display. But none of them could hold a candle to the woman who stood at the center of it all. Elara waited in chambers that still felt like someone else's dream, watching the sun rise over mountains that were now hers to call home. The gown she wore was silver silk, embroidered with healing herbs in golden thread. Kael's idea, a tribute to who she'd been before she became his queen. Lavender and sage traced up the bodice, willow bark and elderflower cascaded down the skirts. A healer's garden, woven into a queen's dress. Her mother sat in the corner, tears streaming down her cheeks. The same mother who'd been bedridden for 3 years, now restored to health by the castle's royal physicians, a gift Kael had insisted on before Elara had even agreed to leave the village. "You look beautiful," her mother whispered. "Your father would be so proud." Elara's throat tightened. "I wish he could see this." "He can, sweetheart. Wherever he is, he can see." A knock at the door, and then Kael's voice, rough with impatience. "If I have to wait another minute to see you, I'm going to break down this door." She smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. "It's bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the ceremony. I'm the Alpha King. I make my own luck." The door opened anyway. She hadn't locked it, and Kael stood in the threshold, dressed in ceremonial black and silver, looking at her like she was the only sunrise that mattered. His silver eyes swept over her, from the crown of wildflowers in her hair to the embroidered hem of her gown, and his breath caught audibly. "You're beautiful." He crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms. Her mother politely excused herself, slipping out with a knowing smile. "You're mine. And in an hour, everyone in the realm will know it." "They already know it." Elara tilted her head back to meet his kiss, a soft, promising thing. "You've been insufferably possessive since the moment we met." "Insufferably devoted," he corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" His lips traced her jaw, her throat, the sensitive spot behind her ear that he'd discovered their first night together. "Possessive is about control. Devoted is about worship. I don't want to own you, Elara. I want to spend my life earning the right to stand beside you." Her fingers curled in his collar, pulling him back to face her. "You know what I keep thinking about? Tell me." "That night in the village, when I walked up to a stranger in a tavern and demanded he pretend to love me." She laughed softly, the sound catching in her throat. "I thought I was asking for a lie. Instead, I found the truest thing I've ever known." Kael's eyes softened, that predator intensity gentling into something achingly tender. "I fell in love with you in that moment. Before I knew about the bond, before I knew anything except that you were fierce and desperate and brave. You walked into my life and demanded I be yours, and all I could think was, finally, something worth fighting for. Finally, someone worth staying for. I love you." The words came easy now. She'd said them 100 times in the last 3 months, and they still felt like discovering fire. "I love you, Kael Thornwood, my fake boyfriend, my Alpha King, my mate. And I love you." He pressed his forehead to hers, breathing her in. "My little healer, my queen, my everything." Outside the window, trumpets began to sound. The ceremony was starting. A kingdom waited to witness their bond made official, to celebrate the woman who'd captured their king's heart with nothing but courage and fire. But they had one more moment, one more breath in this private space that belonged only to them. Elara smiled against his lips. "Ready? With you?" Kael's hand found hers, fingers interlacing. "Always." They walked out together into the sunlight, into their future, a healer's daughter, and the king who'd chosen her. Proof that sometimes the best love stories started with a little deception, a lot of desperation, and a stranger in a tavern who turned out to be everything. Where are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts. And if you'd like to support me, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people hear these stories.